I've got three questions that I wanted to ask, and Ambassador, I will just start with you. Over the past year, the committee has become increasingly concerned as we have seen USAID inhibiting the Congressional Watchdog here, the GAO, from doing its job. And as you know, I spoke with former Administrator Shaw about this after being contacted a number of times by the GAO. And he gave me a written assurance that this policy would be repealed and that the GAO would be provided with the information, including unredacted documents that it needs. And I was just going to ask you, is this your commitment as well?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I thank you also for the many opportunities where you support our programs. Certainly, I give you that commitment.
That's fine. That's fine with me. That's good enough.
Okay.
We'll see the policy is repealed, and I'll work with you on that, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
On food aid reform is another area where I worked with Director Shaw closely, and I've been working with the ranking member and other members of this committee for 2 years now to try to make food aid, the program there, more efficient and more effective. And we want to get more food sent to more people in need in real time here when these disasters hit. And we can do this at a lesser cost and we've made some progress in doing it. But Ambassador, how much does USAID spend annually on shipping food aid as a result of the U.S. cargo preference requirements? And how would USAID's food aid program be affected if cargo preference was bumped back up to 75%, as was proposed by some last year? And I'd follow that up with another question. How many U.S. shipping companies benefit from agricultural cargo preferences? Are they all wholly U.S. owned? And how many more people could be reached with 45% flexibility, assuming a budget of $1.4 billion? If I can kind of give you that outlay and get your feedback.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In answer to the question, how much did we spend? About $175 million to ship food aid was spent in FY13, with about $125 million spent on U.S. flag vessels to comply with cargo preference requirements. There are, as you indicated or requested, there are 3 carriers, principal carriers, that account for about 85% of the food aid shipped in the past 2 fiscal years. And we spend, as I said, $175 million. The request for FY16 is to give us a 25% leeway in that. That amount, that kind of flexibility would allow us to feed about 2 million more people around the world. It would probably get us to a point where we would be able to cut maybe 11 to 14 weeks off of delivery, and it would get the food in a timely fashion to those in need using a number of ways, voucher systems, cash vouchers, credit cards, to purchase local food items. In general, it would create an environment where certainly we'd be faster in our effort to get food around to those who are in need. So I hope those responses addressed each of your questions.
Thank you, Ambassador. The other issue I was going to raise is land tenure in the Philippines. As I noted in my opening statement, individual property and title transfer rights are really critical, and we see this playing out all over the world. It helped spark a revolution across North Africa and the Middle East, and in Haiti, the inability to secure a land title has really impeded our recovery efforts there. In Cambodia and the Philippines, land grabbing routinely undermines U.S.-supported development efforts. So, given the significance of U.S. investments in the Philippines, I've been pressing USAID and MCC to tackle the land grabbing issue there for years. I've made several trips there and seen this firsthand, been out to some of the areas where this has occurred. I very much appreciate your efforts, but it's unclear to me how high this is on the embassy's priority list, and that's why I raise it. Ambassador, what specifically is USAID doing to urge the government of the Philippines to address the issue of land grabbing and have any of the corrupt local officials who are complicit in land grabbing been held accountable?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Land tenure remains a key priority for USAID. The lack of formal access to land and natural resources is, in many ways, a major cause of poverty, certainly, conflict, or for that matter, prevents a country from reaching its full development. Since 2008, USAID has worked to improve regulatory requirements for the government of the Philippines, and streamline land registration processes of one description or another. I can tell you, Mr. Chairman, that in response to Typhoon Haiyan, many Philippine citizens lost their title as a result of that catastrophe. And one of the things that we're doing specifically, as your request, is working with the government of the Philippines as well as the city of Leyte to restore those deeds and titles to the people, the farmers and other landholders. Again, as I think about this issue, the Philippines is certainly our focus, but we're also looking at this across the globe. My own experience in Tanzania was one where land tenure became such a critical issue that in some cases people did not seek out an opportunity to improve themselves simply because they were denied the opportunity for land. And when we made it possible through encouraging the government's reform for people to use the land, farmers, they produced sufficient food items for themselves, but also they produced items sufficient enough to sell on the market, the local markets, and so they improved themselves. They sent their children to school as a result of the cash they were able to secure as a result of selling additional food items. And so this issue is a major consideration in development. And so you have pressed on a very key issue that we certainly have taken to heart, and we will continue to work with you and your committee as something that certainly we have to get resolved as quickly as we possibly can.
Yeah, well, one of the things that's happening is that very well-connected developers at the local level, where there's local government corruption, are basically blocking access to public roads. I saw this myself driving out to one of these areas where this had happened, and roaring up on a motorcycle is one of the private guards employed. He produces a semi-automatic weapon and tells us we won't be able to access that public road. He's blocked that road. What he's in the process of doing is taking the land of people on the other side of that road, or his employer is in the process of doing that because they can no longer access that land. And this is a process that, despite our effort to get it reversed, has not been reversed. At the presidential level, President Aquino, has tried to impact this, but at the local level in the Philippines, USAID and MCC, despite all of their engagement there, and we have a $433 million compact with the Philippines that's going to be completed in May of 2016. In December, the board made the Philippines eligible to develop a second compact. So I think the MCC agrees that the lack of enforceable property and land tenure rights in the Philippines constrains economic growth. I know what I have heard from the U.S. Philippine American investment community about their experiences there, their problems there. Will you condition the second compact upon progress in this area to make sure that on these public roads, the federal government of the Philippines keeps them open, keeps them public, and you remove those well-placed well-connected developers who are out there blocking access so that people can get to their property? And the other question I'd ask is, what of both of you, is what else can we be doing to press the government to take this seriously?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In reference to the compact, well, first let me say that MCC's experience has absolutely been the case that one of the key impediments to economic growth is insecure land tenure and the need for land reform. So we've worked in those areas in many countries. We're working now in Cape Verde. We're building a compact in Morocco that has land reform at the center of it. We are, as you mentioned, looking at a second investment in the Philippines. We are in the very early stages of that. We will be guided, of course, by the economic analysis. But I commit to you that if land is an issue in the Philippines, we will take a very careful look at looking.
But wait a minute. We've been working on this for 3 years now. We've taken 2 trips down there.
Yes.
We've had this happen in the middle of a typhoon. We've had this happen on an ongoing basis with respect to people's inability to access their property. Having already had this compact in place, my point is, these are discussions. As I say, I don't know how high this up is on the embassy's list of things to do, but this is the principal impediment to investment there, is getting this process fixed so that people, and the other point I would make is it's a major issue in terms of people in the Philippines now who don't have the means of preventing well-connected people from routinely doing this. As I say, nobody, to my knowledge, has been charged in this process. And frankly, to be on a public road and to hear about this and go out there and have a gun waved in your face is just an affirmation or an indication that what people are talking about is a huge problem that is not being confronted, not being reversed.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll leave you with that. I'm out of time. I'll go to Mr. Engel, and thank you very much.
Thank you.